Hello, I'm Chitra Ganesh. I'm a visual artist, and my work is rooted in painting and drawing. I work also building large-scale immersive installations inspired by mythology, story, folklore, and thinking about storytelling as a way to expand our imaginations and consider new possibilities for the kind of world we would like to inhabit. A centerpiece of this show is called Journey to the Great Below, which is also the title of the exhibition. And this animation kind of visualizes Inanna's descent into the underworld. Inanna's descent is a story of Inanna, who is the bearer and deity of many things, including fertility, erotic power, war, violence. So she herself is a complex, multidimensional figure. And the story of her descent is the story of Inanna journeying to the underworld and making that treacherous journey a key aspect of which is the trial and tribulation of having to pass through 7 gates of the underworld and then submit herself to judgment. Part of her journey is about encountering not just the underworld, but also her darker half, the forgotten and discarded parts of herself that live beneath the world, and coming to terms with these. And so I think that this kind of mythological language and visual art give us opportunities to consider various dimensions of our being and of our experience that we may not always feel comfortable bringing to the forefront. I found this myth particularly interesting as humanity's first known recorded myth. They've dated it to sometime between 2300 and 1700 BC. Could be written by or was definitely connected with Enheduanna, who wrote many other stories about Inanna, who was also the first poet to sign her name. So just the idea that the first writer and the first story actually centered women was interesting to me, given the kind of corpus of mythology and history that we tend to learn. Part of the way in which this exhibition was designed was to create an immersive experience for the audience, where a lot of these architectures, these fantastical architectures, are visualized and experienced as an embodied experience. So we've constructed these very monumental gates through which the viewer must pass to enter the show. And so there are also multiple other portals, including portals within the animation itself, other sculptural works that transport us to different ways of making and remembering. For example, there's a seal carved out of wax, and this process of seal carving is actually one of the earliest known image making processes, and also probably the earliest way of producing multiple images, so which is very interesting for me as someone who thinks a lot in reproducible and mass-mediated images, from print to comics to film. The first gate through which you enter is the semicircular shape, which is actually inspired by many coins and seals of the period, including Enheduanna's seal. And the imagery on the front of the gate is very much connected to Inanna and her descent, including animals and hybrid creatures that act as guardians of the underworld, her association with the planet Venus, which would later transform her into the goddess Ishtar, and then also thinking about some of the other imagery, the imagery of descent, walking down stairs, and descending and falling below, which is another recurrent theme. And so many of these themes and some of the artifacts that inspired these themes are also picked up in the wall drawings. So in the wall drawing, you see there's something called a bundle of reeds, which is a symbol that is associated with Inanna. There are two sculptures in the show. One is The Descent, which is a pair of feet coming down a spiral staircase. The treads on the staircase have a design that's inspired by snakeskin, which alludes to this idea of sort of shedding your skin and molting as a process of this descent. There's another work further in the show called Cosmic Eye, which is drawn from the lapis eyes that are found as artifacts from this period. Within this eye, which is also the eye of death and life, is a video of moments of cosmic and earthly transformation, growth, and decay. The exhibition also has older works that share interconnected themes with this exhibition. So, for example, in the back there's a large-scale sculpture called Manuscript, which is a giant hand, and on this hand are a series of vignettes that are projected. There's a portal, there's some futuristic figures moving across the hand, and then there's also inspired by hand tattoo designs. So this work and a work Untitled featuring a staircase that runs through the course of the central figure's body kind of prefigure my interest in some of the themes that ground this show.